After unraveling Refuge of the Roads by Joni Mitchell last week, we're staying in the folky singer-songwriter universe this time. Today, we're diving into the oeuvre of British musician Nick Drake. No, not Drake! Nick Drake! For crying out loud! Today, we're looking at an artist who is barely heard during his lifetime, but is now widely regarded as one of the most influential singer-songwriters of all time. High time to take a closer look at his work. This is the Nick Drake album ranking. Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of We're Only in It for the Music, a YouTube series that takes you through the musical universe, from ABBA to Zappa and everything in between and beyond. Click the like and subscribe buttons, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. But enough of that, never mind the bollocks. We're only in it for the music. During his lifetime, Nick Drake released only 3 studio albums, 3 records that, for reasons still hard to fathom, all sold remarkably poorly, and were only truly praised and celebrated after his death. Today, I'm going to try and rank these 3 beautiful albums to determine which one stands as my personal favorite Nick Drake record. And honestly, at this point, I have no idea what the final outcome will be. What I can say already, though, is that the scores are going to be extremely close. I've listened to all 3 Nick Drake albums extensively and given each song a rating between 1 and 10. Remarkably, not a single track scored below a 6. That's how strong, and above all, how consistent Drake's work really is. In addition to the individual songs, I'm also evaluating the sound and production, the sequencing, and the album sleeve. Something I like to call the triple S factor. All of these scores combined ultimately lead to the following ranking. Number 3, Pink Moon. Somewhat surprising even to me, as many consider this album to be Nick Drake's absolute masterpiece. And yet, in this ranking, it lands in 3rd place. That says more than anything about the strength and consistency of his entire body of work. Not a single track on Pink Moon scored below a 6 for me, although the short instrumental horn may have pulled the average down just a fraction. Still, the album contains more than enough absolute gems to make up for that. The title track, Place to Be, Road, and the beautiful closing song From the Morning rank among the most haunting and affecting moments in his entire discography. Released in 1972, Pink Moon would ultimately prove to be the final album in Drake's small but remarkable discography. Completely stripped of a backing band, it also stands as his most introverted and intimate record. Alongside his sublime finger-picking guitar work, we hear that whisper-soft voice delivering his dreamy, poetic lyrics with a fragile restraint that feels almost weightless. The sober, melancholic atmosphere of the album has often led to the assumption that Drake was in a deep depression during the recording sessions. But according to Callie Kalaman of Brighter Music, who manages the Nick Drake estate, that image is inaccurate. Nick was incapable of writing and recording while he was suffering from periods of depression. He was not depressed during the writing or recording of Pink Moon, and was immensely proud of the album. Pink Moon sounds strikingly bare, especially when compared to his first 2 albums. Yet Drake was such an exceptional songwriter that he needed little more than a voice and a guitar, and in the title track, a sparse piano accompaniment. In under half an hour, he delivers a collection of timeless songs, recorded over just 2 evenings, with no interviews, no promotion, and largely ignored by press and public upon release. Many record shops didn't even stock the album. Island Records itself had little idea how to market it. By the time of Drake's tragic death in 1974, Pink Moon had sold only around 10,000 copies, and yet it remains a short but powerful musical statement, powerful in its vulnerability. Stripped of all ornamentation, we may hear Nick Drake here in his purest form, good for 3rd place in this ranking. In 2nd place, 5 Leaves Left, the debut album with which Nick Drake quietly introduced himself to the world in 1969. Though it must be said, very few people actually heard that introduction at the time. Without hit singles, meaningful radio promotion, or regular live performances, 5 Leaves Left sold only around 4,000 to 5,000 copies in the United Kingdom upon release. Reviews were positive, but Drake failed to find a real audience. For Island Records, the album was soon considered a commercial failure. Artistically, however, Five Leaves Left is anything but a flop. With its warm, autumnal atmosphere and rich arrangements, it may well be the most classic singer-songwriter record of Drake's short career. The album opens with Time Has Told Me, but truly comes into its own with the stunning Riverman. Without question, one of the absolute highlights of his oeuvre. From there, standout tracks follow with ease. Cello Song, opening side B, and arguably a stronger opener than Time Has Told Me, as well as Day Is Done, Thoughts of Mary Jane, and of course, Fruit Tree. 3 hours at over 6 minutes is the longest track on the album. Intriguing and atmospheric, though perhaps slightly less powerful than the record's very finest moments. What makes Five Leaves Left so special is the combination of Drake's restrained guitar playing and those lush string arrangements, which lend the music an almost timeless beauty. At its core, however, we hear a young songwriter who already sounds fully formed. Intimate, melancholic, and remarkably self-assured for a debut, Five Leaves Left is therefore an impressive first step, and earns second place in this ranking. And finally, the number one in this ranking, Brighter Later from 1971. Drake's second album, and to my ears, his most complete record. With contributions from musicians associated with Fairport Convention and John Cale of the Velvet Underground, Brighter Later sounds richer and lighter in tone than his other two albums. The subtly jazzy arrangements blend beautifully with Drake's gentle voice and refined guitar playing. The album features an impressive run of highlights. The two Hazy Janes, placed in reverse order on the track list, One of These Things first, Poor Boy, and of course the breathtaking Northern Sky. Perhaps the most beautiful song Drake ever recorded. Yet upon release, this album too sold only a few thousand copies. Island Records had hoped for a commercial breakthrough after the modest reception of his debut, but that breakthrough never came. What remains is an album that, more than 50 years later, still stands effortlessly. In just over 40 minutes, Drake moves freely between folk and jazz, delivering strong material across the board. While his other two albums contain undeniable highlights alongside minor imperfections, Brighter Later feels, as a whole, the most consistent and balanced. And that is precisely why this album takes the number one spot in this ranking. Nick Drake rarely performed live, gave very few interviews, and remained a deeply private and withdrawn figure throughout his life. Perhaps that is why he remains so elusive to this day. An artist we may come to understand best simply by listening to his music. 3 albums, 31 songs, not even 2 hours of music. That is all Nick Drake left us during his lifetime. Albums so close in quality that this ranking was ultimately decided by the smallest of margins. And while it's always interesting to place them side by side, his work perhaps feels most powerful when experienced as a whole. For years now, the music of Nick Drake has been the soundtrack to quiet winter evenings and early spring days in the countryside. Not urban or earthbound, but almost otherworldly in its beauty, like nature itself. And that was Nick Drake. Those were his albums ranked. What's your favorite Nick Drake album? And how would your ranking look? Let me know in the comments section below this video. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts. You can listen to the highlights of Nick Drake, along with all the other music featured in this YouTube series, via the Spotify playlist. Visit the social media pages on Facebook and Instagram for updates, because I will follow you, if you follow me. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend about the channel. Why not? It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching. See you next time. And in the meantime, drop the needle, press play, and remember, we're only in it for the music.